today's workshop is a mix of martial arts and also sports science. Okay, there's this concept of internal work, and today we are focusing on two out of the four pillars, which is breathing and form. Okay, so today's focus will be on the training of tendon and ligament strength. Okay, which will be presented by Mr. Randall Xiao and Mr. Ron Felix. Okay, Randall himself is an NROC Wushu coach, and he also coaches other forms of martial arts. Okay, he also does training and leadership consultancy and also curriculum development. Whereas Mr. Ron Felix, he is an experienced Russian martial artist for the past 20 years with a particular interest in the area of internal work. Right, so before we begin, so quick introduction about this sports resilience package, okay, which MCCY introduced back in October last year. So basically, part of this package is the CCE training allowance. So you can see the 5 criteria on your screen here. So coaches who can meet all of these 5 criteria will be eligible to receive $10 per hour, okay, of this CCE training allowance. All right, so I'll be repeating this later on also, yep, more towards the end of the workshop. Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Randall and Mr. Ron. Okay, so over to you, please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ron.
Hi.
Hey. Everyone, can you hear us clearly? If you can, just give us a thumbs up on your video screen so we know. Okay, so Ron and I came together with this presentation because we are both avid martial artists, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about was, regardless of which form and which style of martial arts you do, I think we want to develop some core attributes, right, Ron? Everyone wants to be faster and stronger. So the common way to do that is build up physical attributes. So when we talk about building up the physical attributes of strength, stability, what does that mean when we say an external form of strength versus an internal form of it? What does it mean to an athlete or to a martial artist?
Right. So Randall has asked quite a very good question actually on that. Okay, from the point of view of sports, right? You want to be faster, better, stronger, right? And injury free. Okay. From martial arts, right? We also do want that same attributes. We maybe not even faster also, because sometimes faster might not be important in terms of martial arts, or depending on which kind of martial arts that you are doing. So specifically for myself, I've been doing Aikido and Russian martial arts system actually for the last 20 years. So it's different from the current, like you see MMA sports being as like fast, as like explosive power and stuff. So the style that I do is actually more internal, right? So a lot of the things that we do is to actually, to put it into layman terms, right? You quieten the muscles in the body so that you have more efficiency in its use. That's basically actually the focus actually for today. Why I want to introduce actually a training of the tendons and ligaments, and to demonstrate and actually to allow the coaches yourself, right, to actually share to try the drills that we are doing. We're probably going to be doing maybe about like 2 or 3, the squat,
okay,
push up. And then you guys can actually experience it for yourself. It's going to be like half more experiential and less of the theory bit, because the theory bit is actually quite simple. When you look at the slides later, right, you find out for yourself.
So you mentioned that you're going to share with us some simple drills, like for example squats, right?
Yes.
So would I be fair to say that, okay, I'm doing squats to develop, okay, my posterior chain, my grounding, my stances, I want to kick stronger, I want to kick harder. So what's the difference between an external approach and an internal approach? So if I was a coach and I wanted to develop explosive strength, I would say, okay, Ron, let's do some explosive squats, maybe 3 sets of 10. If you are a skilled athlete, maybe I'll introduce air squats as well, where you also do some lift off and do plyometrics. Can you talk about internal? Can you give us a demonstration of the difference between when you are talking about internal squat, and how does that help?
Okay, So basically, the theory behind like how you train the tendons and ligaments, right, is that you need to actually slow down the time taken actually to do the squat. So for example, if we do a squat, right, usually how many seconds does it take to do a squat?
Oh, if I do it fast, less than 1 second, I go down, go up, right? That's what we want, right? As many times as possible, right? If you're doing CrossFit,
yeah. So it doesn't, we don't really put that much effort into thinking about, okay, I'm going to do a squat. I'll just like go up, go down. It's like 1 second,
right?
2 seconds.
Yep.
So in order for us, in the internal side of training, right, for us to develop the tendons and ligaments and the alignments within the body, you actually slow down the process. Because by slowing down the process, you extend the time that the tendons and ligaments are under stress, right? And by using breath work, because breath work is actually the key to actually internal work, you help actually to strengthen the tendons and ligaments by extending the time that they're under tension by your own body weight, right?
So what do you mean by using the breath? Because most of the time, if we do a series of exercises, we just breathe naturally, right? And breathing is to just make sure we clear lactic acid from our lungs.
Correct.
How does the breathing mechanism, are you able to show us an example of how you use breath to power the squat?
Sure, yeah. I'll just go through a bit about like how breathing actually helps. Because breathing actually, breath work actually does two things, basically, okay? So like what you said, it clears the lactic acid in the body, in the muscles. So when you're holding a position, it gives oxygen to the position that you're holding. I'll have a demonstrator actually come. Okay. So, okay, let me introduce Wen Xing. All right, so he'll be our demonstrator actually for today. So let's just go here. Right. So when you perform a squat, okay, so from the front view, basically a normal squat will actually just be from the top and then he's going to go down. Right, okay. But how we train in the internal side, right, is that we extend the time that you actually take to do the squat. So for example, he can do a 1 minute squat. Right. So once he actually demonstrate, then he'll go. So on your side, right, you can actually take a time actually for 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what it looks from the front. I'll show you the side. So basically what he's doing, right, is that he's actually really extending the time that he takes to go down.
So you can see that Wen Xing is hardly moving. So this isn't some ballistic and dynamic thing, right? But I can see him moving incrementally slower, right? Very, very slow, but he's still moving, right? He's not pausing at any point, right?
He is. The difference between movement, right, is that the movement is actually inside. So if you can notice his breath work.
Very sharp inhales and exhales of breath, right?
Yes. Because you need to regulate actually your breath in order for you to control the amount of tension inside of the body.
So that means at this point, what Wen Xing is doing isn't just gaseous exchange. He's also using the breathing mechanism to stabilize his core, regulate the internal pressure to him to better support himself, right?
Yes. Okay, if you notice from the side view, right, his form actually is very good because he's keeping a straight back and the alignments actually within the body is actually still there. So he just completed a cycle of going down. Then now he's using that cycle actually to go back up.
Okay.
So once when he's up, basically it looks like. So the time taken to actually do the squat, right, matters. So the slower that you can actually do the squat, like you can do a 1 minute or even a 2 minute squat. Usually even holding a squat for like 30 seconds, like going up, going down 30 seconds and then coming up 30 seconds, right, is actually quite a challenge for most people also. So doing a 1 minute squat, like what Wen Xing actually just did, right, actually is not easy. Having said that, right, okay, if I'm not too sure, but actually I'd like to invite the coaches, right, to actually try to do this for yourselves. Then you can experience the thing. Yeah. wherever you are, right? Take 1 minute actually just to come up and try. You open yourself actually to experience to see why we are encouraging actually that instead of doing like a fast squat with no control using breath work, but actually to actually engage your tendons and ligaments, right, in doing the slow squat. Would you guys be up for it?
So, if you are shy, maybe turn off your videos. So, I guess, Ron, what you're trying to say is that in the 1 minute slow squat, the movement from standing to squat should transition at an even pace, right? You're not suddenly from up, going down, and then coming up again, right? It needs to be even pace, control. So we are using all the internal components, could be tendons, ligaments, connective tissues, to do the movement in a controlled manner.
Yep, correct. So basically, actually, you are controlling actually the amount of tension that you keep in your body, because your whole body actually, right, to develop a whole integrated structure, you need to regulate the amount of tension that is distributed throughout your body.
Okay, so why is that? So in comparison with, let's say, Wen Xin doing 3 sets of 20 squats fast up and down, what would the gains be for an athlete?
Okay, so basically, when we think about athlete training, right, most of us, I would say majority of the coaches actually, you just think of the body as like, okay, we're training muscles and all. Okay, you can write in the comments and all that, but as a coach, right, what's your priority in training the athlete? Is it integrated like a whole body development, or just muscular development, or does anyone actually focus on actually also training tendons and ligaments in athlete development? I'm quite curious about that also.
I believe for those coaches who are involved in any form of field of explosive training, we would do some form of biometrics. And we often, one of the common things is biometrics has great gains, but we must always be careful to implement it at the right stage of training, right? Because explosive training is the one that gives the greatest gains, but also the most prone to injury. Introduce it too early, you know, you're going to get someone with an ACL, PCL, MCL, something else. That's why it's always a problem. How can we develop this tendon strength? Because us, big muscles, you know, when you get bruises, that's fine, right? But when you damage a tendon and ligament, that's your 6 months recovery out of action. So this comes as a very interesting topic. What can we learn from the martial artists to strengthen the athlete's performance in terms of all stability?
Okay, basically, okay, from the martial arts point of view, right, strength doesn't really come from just muscular power, actually, the thing. Strength, internal strength actually comes from the muscles, the tendons and the ligaments, and the skeletal structure, right, all working as one unit together, right? So basically, when you talk about like, okay, just muscle development for like biometrics and stuff, that's just one aspect of what we do in internal work for martial arts.
So previously, remember in our discussion, you mentioned about internal work translating to group. So we were talking about like when Wen Xin, long time no see, we were doing the squats. If there's an external vector, for example, that seeks to deform Wen Xin's structure, an understanding of the internal mechanics actually allows him to maintain that. Can you demonstrate a bit of that and explain to us what it means, how to maintain structure against strike, why that's important?
Okay, so for example, I remember this, what Randall actually were talking about and all that. So basically, for example, okay, let me try to find a spot. Right. So here we can see. So Wen Xin is going to be doing the squat, right? Okay, but from a martial arts point of view, I'm going to stress him. I'm going to give him some stress factors, which is like maybe a strike or even a push to the head. So basically, he is doing his work, which is the movement, right? But it's not so much external movement, but internal movement, because he's adjusting actually the parts that need to be engaged and the parts of his body actually that need to move in order for him to breathe and move his body. Okay, so demonstration without explanation. Okay, then we'll go. So he'll do the 1 minute squat, slow down version of the squat, and I'll add in some. stress factors for him. So basically, even under stress, he still keeps his form. So now,
I see. So Ron the external factor, right? He applying forces in different way. All the while that's going on, Wen Xin struggles to maintain doing what he's doing without with minimal deformation to his structure. Okay.
Because if you have a integrated form, right, basically that means that your body is working as one whole unit together. And in athlete development or usage, right, it's just a guess for me, but I don't see people, or I don't see coaches, right, actually training the whole athlete to be kind of like integrated. Because when I see sports, right, I actually do visualize actually form and good form just by watching.
So there was a portion where Wen Xin was halfway in the squat. I noticed you pushed his hips, right? And he felt like wiggled his way out of it. It really troubled Wen Xin to go through that agonizing moment again. He was halfway in the squat position, right?
Yeah.
Now, generally, for most of us, you push us in the hip there, we're gonna topple over. He did some wiggle and mobilize his hips. Now, I know for guys, right? A lot of us don't like to move our hips for whatever reason we don't.
So, for example, right, okay, so he's in a halfway squat position.
Right,
so,
right.
So legs are shoulder width apart, right? And basically, you see good spine position, right? Neck in the neutral position also. So technically, quite good form, right? Okay. When external pressure comes in, right, most of us will actually get stuck, right? We will hold the body.
I will brace myself, all right, because I don't want you to move me, all right? I'll brace myself as strong as possible, right? I noticed that that's not what Wen Xin is doing.
He's not, because he knows how to regulate the amount of tension in his body.
Okay.
And it's breath work, right, is part of the process for you to develop internal tension control. Right? So, for example, when external forces come, right, it doesn't affect his whole body that he gets locked up. When you get locked up, you don't have power. So, for example, if I move the arms will just move, but they don't. If you do a negative, like if you're tense.
Okay. You put me, I'm going to fall, right? Correct, right?
He's going to fall. He's going to lose his balance. And all. Yeah. So from the front, if he's tense, this is a negative.
Okay.
It's going to go off, right? Which is not good. If you clash with somebody and all that, then that's not good. Okay. So now the positive is, let's say I move arms.
Okay.
Body remains fairly relaxed. It's fine. Okay. Now the one that you wanted to see.
Yep.
If your hips get locked up during a game or a session, then actually that you lose the connection between your upper half of your body, right, and then your lower half. So no power, basically, right, to put it in layman terms, right. But if your hips stay relaxed, so now, for example, the positive demonstration for that, any external movement that comes, right, you just receive.
Okay, so this is interesting. I see Wen Xin's hips moving, but his shoulders stay in the same plane, right? So that's strange because when you say you are moving his arms, the extremities, that's easy. But to isolate your shoulders and your hips, Wen Xin, what's going through your mind at this point when Ron is pushing you and applying forces?
To be honest, as little as possible. This kind of thing, I think, is very hard to plan. If you it's kind of also locking your body. So I try to let myself feel the direction that he's giving and go with it.
Okay. So in this case, less is more, right? It's just trying to get yourself out of the way, allow your body to
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Bruce Lee said, right? It's not about learning more stuff, it's like the daily decrease.
Yeah.
So
okay.
What would be the immediate application of an exercise like this, where, for example, coaches in a wide variety of sports, I could see maybe powerlifting, wrestling, where we need to change levels, root ourselves, transfer weight, even for throwers, I think. What would be the benefit and way to use this exercise to benefit the various sports?
Okay. For this, right? Actually, I'd like to go back to the slides. Can you bring on the slides? Then we'll work on the slides and then we'll do another demonstration.
Okay, Ron, you let me know whether we are on the correct slide or not.
Okay, yeah, this slide is good. So
Okay,
basically, we just did a demonstration actually of breathing form, relaxation, and movement. So if you read off from the slide, right, basically these are the 4 principles that we practice actually when we do internal work, right? Okay, so we actually just demonstrated like how breathing and form, right, can be done, right? So basically, form doesn't mean that it's a fixed form. It's like your structure isn't locked into place and all that, as you can see from the demonstration from Wen Xing, I think. And that the basic squat is actually one of the ways that you can train actually your tendons and ligaments. So the focus actually for today's sharing, right, is really how can you use like the basic exercises of squat and then sit up, push up, so that you can help actually to develop athletes, right, in terms of their tendon and ligament development or power, right? Okay, can we move on to the next slide?
Can I jump in here for a bit, Ron?
Pardon again?
Can I jump in here for a bit? I just make a clarification. I saw in the comments, one of the participants was asking for new learners, they may need some support, like, you know, if some of us have tight hips or they are recovering from injury, then when they do the squat, it might make sense for them to have a form of support, maybe using a chair, using a wall,
Yes,
to assist them.
Yeah, basically, if you do not have the balance, I think basically the question comes from if you don't feel balanced actually when you're doing the squat. Yes, it's possible to do a adjustment, right? So for example, like to do an adjustment of using the wall, right? So for example, Wen Xing comes up to the wall, right? Then let's say he can't really balance properly. So what he can do is actually use his hands, right, to support. The wall can support his weight, and then through the weight. Yep. So basically, this is what it can be done.
And as you do it slowly, I would assume that you can find areas where there is difficulties in your mobility, any pain points, and then you work your way, identify those areas of tension, right?
Yes. So basically, the adjustments, right, need to be inside. So if you find that when you reach a certain level and then there's difficulty actually in moving, right, you need to adjust inside of your structure, right? So the form is you need to work on your form inside.
Cool.
Okay. You can use a chair.
One thing you've got a feedback from participant that says it's all in your head. So you are the man with the hip.
Yeah, it's all in the hip. Shakira got it right also. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Over to you, Ron.
Okay. So we'll go back to the slides again. Tonam, can you bring on? Yeah, correct. Thanks. Okay. So basically, as we were saying, okay, what you're going to be learning, or you have already started learning, right, is breath and form and internal work. That's what we are actually trying to share today. Then after this, we're just going to learn slightly more about tendons and ligaments and how they function. Then why you should be training them. Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is my trainer profile. Okay, you can just read briefly. Right. Next one. Okay, next slide again. Okay, so as what I explained previously, breathwork actually allows you to integrate or allows the athlete, right, to work on their muscles, tendons and ligaments. This is the important one. And then the skeletal structure, right? So breathing, like how Wen Xing was utilizing breathwork, right, was actually he used breathing actually to give him the internal cues. It's like you develop an internal awareness of where your parts of your body need to be, your structure needs to be, and then by actually slowing down that time, right, to do the squat, or later when we do the other exercises, right, you increase the strength and flexibility in the tendons and ligaments, right? Because you increase the time under tension that you stress these parts of the body. That's how you actually gain strength in the tendons and ligaments. Okay, right. Next slide. Right. So basically, just a brief introduction actually to how the skeletal system is held together is that tendons bind your muscle to the bone, right? So if you've never seen, I believe most coaches would know this diagram actually, or kind of actually be familiar with the human body structure. Okay, but we don't on a day-to-day basis actually focus on this. Okay, so tendons bind your muscle to the bone, right? Okay, your ligaments join the bone to the bone, right? Ligaments will be like your chicken bits, actually the white stuff actually that connects to bone, right? It's the bits that you know of, but you don't really focus about. I think. Next slide. Okay, then the next one. We'll skip to the next. Okay, so basically, why are we sharing this information or this training with you guys? Okay, so basically, better form equals better performance. I believe as coaches, right, what we want to do is that we want to help our athletes perform better. And performing better actually really means different spectrums actually for different sports and different purposes, I would say, right? So one of the things that we want to focus or to help actually is to develop tendon strength, right? Because with tendon strength and ligament strength combined together with your muscles and your skeletal structure working synergistically together, right? So all three working as one unit, you enhance really the power and the pace and the precision for athletes, right? Okay. Also, if you have stronger tendons and ligaments, right? This is the next one. You reduce the chances of actually injury. Because if you have a better internal awareness of your body, you start to pick up on cues when you feel that soreness or that ache in your muscles or like in your back, and you start to do a readjustment and all. Right? So, yeah, by practicing actually this way of breath work and this way of actually training the tendons and ligaments, right, you help the athlete develop a better awareness, self-awareness of that their bodies, so that they can highlight as like, oh, something's wrong inside the thing. I need to look into how can I adjust actually my form, my structure, and so that I don't injure myself, or if I injure myself, I prolong the time that I lessen the time that I can actually train in my sport.
So I suppose, yeah. So I guess for coaches, from what I hear from Ron, as opposed to our normal or what we regularly see as eccentric or concentric contraction in muscular strength training, where we are looking to develop muscle hypertrophy through overloading the system, by doing the slow 1 minute or 1 minute push-up that you are, it's almost a dynamic isometric contraction where you are moving through a very low stance, and rather than using momentum to power the energy, you're actually forcing your active tissues to take on the load, thereby strengthening your joints. So this recalls some of my own experience where I do Chinese martial arts, and I was working with the older gentlemen. They're not muscular, but I realized I can't move them. And they have shared that in their training, the reason why they do certain things slow is to get that sensation of the connective tissues in them. And for them, that kinetic chain allows them to recruit different body parts under conscious control. Whereas for us, when we say move, it's I whole body move, I contract everything, or I relax everything. Theirs is able to bring what usually for us is not controllable under a conscious control.
Okay. Yep. Right now, right, we're going to move on to, we move on to the next slide. The next slide should actually show us like, okay, so this is the demonstration bit, and we started actually with the demonstration bit. So you've seen the squat, right? Okay, so now you're going to see the push-up, right?
Okay.
So I think we'll actually demonstrate. So same thing, if let's say you're going to use breath work to train on the form for push-up, okay? So this is what it's going to look like. So Wen Xin is actually going up into the push-up position. So let me try to catch his legs as well. Okay, nice. Okay, so basically the idea here, right, is the same as the squat, right? He's going into the push-up position, and the time that he's actually going to do the push-up, right, is going to be extended or super extended. So he's going to do like a really slow from up position, and then he's going to go down to the low position. But he's not going to jerk the movements. It's actually going to be a slow, precise control of his muscles.
so that he needs to breathe so that he can move inside. Okay? Okay, so demonstration without explanation. Okay, if you just notice on how he is actually lowering his body, right? At the elbows, just at the elbows here, right? He is allowing the muscles actually to move very slowly inside the thing. So the movement, right, for this exercise, right, the movement is not external in the sense whereby you're doing like very fast reps and like, right? But the movement, when you slow down the timing, you start to stress out actually the joints, which is where actually he is moving from, and the tendons and ligaments. By this method, right, you actually start to train the whole body form and get stronger tendons and ligaments and joint connectivity. I'm just going to move the camera a bit, allow you to, if you can listen up to Wen Xing's breath work.
So this is a very different notion of what a push-up is compared to what we normally recognize.
Yep. So your concept, actually, after this session, right? What I do want to achieve is actually to kind of like I won't say reinvent, but like change your perspective of how strength training can be done, right? Because normally we'll be thinking about like faster reps, more loads, right?
3 sets of 20. Yeah. I see Wen Xing do 1 sit-up, I check out already.
But for us, less is more. So basically, if you extend the time frame, so if you tell your athletes like, okay, you're gonna do just 1 push-up, or you're just gonna do 2 squats only, they'll be thinking, oh yeah, right. Okay, sure, 1 push-up, 2 squats, no problem. Let's get it on, right? I think. But if you do it our way, if you do it the internal style way of doing push-ups, right? You give them a good challenge, really.
The quality of the movement, the form. We have a question from a participant, like when Wen Xing you do your slow push-ups or your slow squats, ideally, how many seconds are you doing this for?
I think it's for beginning, you just go as slow as you can so that you feel a little bit of stress, but not too much. And then as you are able to, you go up from maybe 15 seconds to 30 to 1 minute. Could be 90 seconds. It's up to you, but it should be somewhere just at the edge of your comfort at the start.
So the key thing is not an absolute indicator where you're saying 1 minute or 5 minutes. It's just slightly beyond your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, I think a good gauge is that if you have to speed up, then you're probably doing it a little bit too slow than you're able to. You should be able to keep the pace exactly the same down and exactly the same up. So each part of the movement should be the same speed.
Okay, consistency is key. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Randall, for yourself, right? Okay.
Yep.
Now my turn to actually like turn the tables on you in that sense. Okay. So you've done you've done sports, you've done coaching now, right? And you've also done Systema also. You did classes before, right? Okay. So from your side, can you describe your experience of what was different?
Well, I guess when we look at this, right, if we measure expenditure of effort or work, we often associate that, okay, if I do 10 sit-ups times 3 sets, then if I want to increase the workload, okay, I either do 12 sit-ups times 3 sets or 10 sit-ups times 5 sets. That's it. Here, just Wen Xing doing 1 sit or 1 push-up or 1 squat already check out. Why? Because moment is drawn out. So watching him, especially now on Zoom when I watch the big screen, actually as you are going down, I notice the form is very consistent. So one of the things that I've been working with the various sporting associations for their coaching programs is, how do you fix form? How do you fix and improve athletic movement through video processes and reviews? So we realized that in sporting context, you videotape the guy, and then you slow it down, and then you analyze the movement. It's very hard to get the athlete to slow down. But in this case, the athlete has already slowed down, and he has brought a lot of things under conscious control. That makes it easier to fix certain things, because now he's not relying on momentum anymore. And I think that what you shared is very powerful, because then we can retrain the body. We have that resolution where it says, okay, when things slow down a bit, move a bit. But if everything you are doing is at speed, right? I can't pause you, you see. I can't give you feedback because the moment has passed. So looking at that, I think that's one of the key things to do to improve form, improve technique by looking at the quality of the moment. And I think that's applicable to martial art, any form of sport. Especially, we know, I'm not trying to identify a particular sport. With the recent trends in high intensity interval training, CrossFit, any athletes are getting fitter, but also suffering injuries due to poor form as well. And as responsible coaches, we want to push our athletes, but we want to make sure that form is important. So this is powerful for me, because then it allows us to have longevity in our sport.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Randall, man. Good sharing. Okay. Okay. I see some questions that are coming about on the screen or there. Okay. I might not be able to answer on immediately, but okay. When we do post your questions actually on Facebook. Okay? Because when I have time, right, I'll start to reply actually to the questions on Facebook. So if you see the thread currently on the Facebook Coach SG Facebook chat, on the live session, right, do post your questions there also. I'll take the time later after the session, right, to actually answer your questions. Right? So if you have questions about like how long you need to do the training to do the push-ups or the squats, right, post them up on Facebook. Then we'll take it on from there. Okay, right. So another thing that personally this time I'm going to share actually about like how to do like use breathwork and the push-ups. Right. So basically, you don't need to actually always do like a slow one, like what Wen-Xing demonstrated. But you can actually also use the same concept of breathwork and form. But okay, for the push-up, most of us actually start the push-up actually from the top position, right? But for us actually, how we line up for the push-up, right, is you go down to the ground because that's your most relaxed position, and just place your arms right actually by your side. So your shoulders shouldn't be like tense; it should be relaxed. Arms or your fists just need to find a position that your shoulders can stay relaxed, and then from here you just push up. Your final position will be that your hips should be free, your body should be hips always stay free, because if you lock up the hips, right, then you lose the connection between the top half and your bottom half of your body. Okay. So if let's say your athletes don't or can't actually experience actually what it means to actually do a slow one by using breathwork. So in your, you can actually slow down the process. So you do. You don't need to do like an extreme 1 minute. So you just do maybe like a 10 count. So if Wen-Xing can do a 10 count for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And then 10 up. And then if you want to do like a 10 down, same thing. Somebody will count up 1 to 10. Then Wen-Xing, you do a count for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And down. So if by actually regulating the amount of time that you take actually to do the exercise, right, you start to focus on form and
because the pressure is on the joints, on the tendons and ligaments, right? Especially for the push-up. We need good, strong tendons and ligaments actually to develop power in the body.
So that's one of the reasons I noticed that you and Wenjin were doing the push-ups with your fist. So you have a good structure and alignment in the punch. And that's the same configuration that you would use in delivering your strikes punches as well.
For example, if you do racket sports, right? Okay, if you are relying solely only on your muscles, right? Your muscles going to tire out. Most, I think, badminton people or tennis racket people actually would know this, you know. But if you're going to rely on three things, which is your muscles, your tendons and ligaments, and your skeletal structure working as one unit together, right? You're going to develop more power. Basically, that's one of the benefits of how you can get your athletes actually to perform faster, better, and stronger. Actually, all three, like muscles, tendons, ligaments, and your skeletal structure, work as one unit.
Are there other breathing patterns that might be used to power your push-ups? Like now we're seeing the slow push-ups where you go without. What about just doing one inhale, one exhale? Are there different variations, and how would that differ in us experiencing the push-up or the squat?
Okay, like one inhale, one exhale, right, is also possible. Okay, the thing about breath work is that there's kind of like three main things that you need to know about when you're doing breath work, or what to focus on when you're doing breath work. First, your breathing needs to be comfortable, as in like when you breathe, right, you shouldn't be breathing so that you start to suck in air and then you stress out your body. You need to breathe naturally and comfortably. So it's, for example, if I'm doing the squat, right? Okay. So from the side, right? If I'm going to be, I lose the form. So my breathing needs to be one inhale. One exhale. So I don't need to have like quick inhales. It depends, right? If you need to breathe more, for example, if I'm going slower, right, I'll need to breathe more so that I can take out tension from the body.
What about a slightly faster variation where you do and down? Would that principle still apply, or one inhale, sharp, and put? Would you do that?
Okay. Yeah, you can do it. If you're doing fast reps, right, that breath work can be applied that way also.
Could you show us and then see how that still maintains currently when you do it slightly faster?
Sure, yeah. So for example, you want to do like more explosive stuff, right? Instead of training on the tendons and ligaments, right? So you'll be doing
So the inhale is on the way down, the exhale is on the way up. So you very conscientiously build that breathing mechanism into the development of that power.
Yeah, so it's like so it's a very conscious method of actually applying your breath, right, to your whole body. Right? So basically, if that answers your question, right, breathing can be adjusted to the type of work that you're doing. Right? So you really need breathing to be comfortable. You need your breathing to be sufficient. So you need to take in enough air that you feel your body needs. Because if you take in less than what you need, right, your muscles will start to tire out. Then you won't be able to like lengthen the time, right, that you start to stress your tendons and ligaments.
So coaches, you realize that actually I kind of set Ron up here. Notice that where he's doing both slow exercises, fast exercises, despite doing dynamics, he's not out of breath at all. And I think that's one of the more powerful things with breath work, that we are doing fast.
Randall?
Yes?
Just to interrupt a bit, yeah, you have a bit of echo coming from your side.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. I'll try and slow down. I was saying that at any stage, we noticed that despite their physical exertion, both Ron and Wenjin were never out of breath. They were still able to compose themselves and carry on speaking as if physical exertion didn't happen at all, right? And that's due to this conscientious part of breathing.
Yeah. So actually, if you do breathwork correctly and you train your body actually to be more aware of your form, right? It actually helps, right? Definitely, because like most of the time when we do the work, right, we don't find ourselves getting breathless after doing the reps. We need to breathe to recover, but very rarely actually you will get like overtired from doing the exercises. Okay, I have a question from Elise actually to everyone. That's kind of like the just posted. Okay, is it specifically to breathe out when going down or inhale when pushing up? Actually, no. You can do a breathe in when you're going down, or you can do an exhale when pushing up. That means the reverse actually. You don't need to always do it the same. So for example, if let's say I'm doing the push-up. So if I exhale out when I go down, I'll inhale when I go up. But reversely, if let's say I inhale when I go down, so let's say I inhale, then I exhale out, it can also be done. So basically, the breath, right, doesn't need to be always inhale when you go down or always exhale when you go down. But as long if there's a continuity of breath. So basically, inhale and exhale are actually joined together. There's no difference in different shading actually between the two. I hope that answers Elise's question. Right. Okay. Let me see, sets building. Okay, let me see. Okay, Gabriel actually just posted. Okay, are these exercises suitable for athletes recovering from injuries? Yes, definitely. Okay, you need to do modifications for them so that they don't overstress the particular area that they are injured in, but they can actually have modifications. For example, for the squat, right? If you can't do a full squat on your own, you can utilize the wall actually to support part of your weight to do the squat. That's fine. Or you can even use a chair actually to like support your weight so that you can have that stability when you go down and you don't need to overstress the particular joint or muscle group that the athlete is injured in. Good for all sports, yes. Okay, the 4 exercises from Colin Lam to everybody. Okay, the 4 exercises that you recommended, is it good for all sports? Yes. Overall, the 4 exercises of the push-up, the squat, the sit-up, and then the leg raise, right, is overall development. Because it covers actually the standing position, the vertical. It covers actually the side, basically the arms. Sit-up will be your core, if you're going to do sit-ups. And then leg raises actually will be also core. So leg raises will be core in your lower half of the body. I think to end off, right, we'll just do a demonstration actually of the sit-up and the leg raise so that you guys can see. And hopefully you guys can, on your own time, on target, you can try out the exercises also. But so that you have a good visualization, because we have this on video. And after the demonstration, I think we'll wrap up today's session. Okay, right? So push-up, squat, you do sit-up. Okay, so Wen Xing will demonstrate actually how to do the sit-up. So from the side view, basically this is how it's going to look like. What's different is that he is slowly actually lowering himself down to the ground. Okay, until same thing, he is vertically down. Okay. So now, coming up, this is where it starts to differ from our normal sit-up.
I remember trying to do this in my classes. This is where, as opposed to how we do sit-ups for NAPFA, where you're trying to get as much momentum as you can going up, right? This one really forces you to concentrate on your structure and your core.
Yeah, okay, so like from the front view, it's going to look this way. Doing sit-ups this way is really much of a killer actually. So one sit-up for the for your athlete, right, is gonna train them.
And then until you're up and vertical. So basically ending position would be like this. Straight back basically, and legs extended. Okay, so now for the last exercise will be leg raise. We'll demonstrate actually how to do leg raise. So leg raise, starting position actually, same thing. It's going to be like lying on the ground. Then basically what he's going to do, right, is he's going to lift up the legs. Until it's over. The head, and then he's going to slowly so if you take a look at what Wen-Xing is doing, right, there's a lot of breath work and control. So he's not letting momentum actually do the work. He's actually consciously engaging his muscles, the tendons and ligaments, right, to control the movement. So basically that's the leg raise. Okay, I think we are just about at the end because Chonong needs to do some, to end up and wrap up the session. Okay, so yeah, that's all for sharing actually for today.
All right, thanks Ron and Randall for the interesting session. So